On the line with us, one of the people for whom I have the most admiration among all of the members who represent us in the United States House of Representatives, Congressman Jim McDermott of the Washington State, representing the 7th District of Washington. Congressman, welcome back to the program. It's been a while. It's great to have you.
It's been a while. I've been here. I don't know where you've been.
I've been here too. I got your press release here back on September 24th, or no, the 17th. McDermott's statement on voting no on the McKeon Amendment, continuing resolution HJ Res 124, and it went off on it. I don't know if you heard back from any of your constituents at considerable length, saying, this is so good. This guy, is speaking truth to power, as it were. Tell me your thoughts on where we're at and what we're doing internationally.
Well, that's a really big question. Where are we at? I think that the problem for us for the last, since 9/11, has been that we have not taken the time to stand and think about where we are and where we're going. We followed a very impetuous leader, egged on by Cheney and others, into a morass which I think most people were sort of surprised when they figured out how badly we were misled by the leadership in terms of what was going on. And I think that we are now at least lucky we got a president who sits and thinks carefully about what he's getting us into. Now, the problem is that it is a very complicated situation. It doesn't lend itself to simple answers. It doesn't lend itself to, we'll just do this and we'll do that and we'll be out of it here in 90 days, like we were promised by Rumsfeld some years ago. And I think that the problem the president has at the moment is figuring out exactly where to go and then come to the Congress and ask for that kind of authorization. I think he is really struggling with that. That's how I see him.
Yeah. I'm kind of torn on this. I see the president as President Obama as, thank God, being thoughtful, not easily and readily reviving the old, war on terror tropes and the chest thumping politic of the Bush administration. And yet, at the same time, he seems to have surrounded himself, at least in the military and foreign policy circles, with people who are very interventionist. On the third hand, like the Yazidis, I mean, you've got people who are just being slaughtered, and it's just, geez, this is tough.
Well, I think that's where sort of all of us who, I mean, I can't tell you how good I feel when he sits and thinks before he acts.
Yeah.
And so from my point of view, it has been been wonderful to have that kind of leadership going on in the country. Now, whether he's going to continue and come to the Congress, because I think he really needs to come to the Congress,
right,
and have a debate in public. I mean, I lost in 2002. I lost. I wanted the debate, and we took a vote, and we went to war in Iraq. I thought it was a mistake then. I think it is now, but that I lost. But at least the American public had an opportunity to see the issue debated and to begin to think about what we're letting ourselves into, because I think they've already sort of given us the clue that this is not going to be a short war, and we better think about another 3, 4, 5 years of it into the next administration. And when you start, I mean, people need to face that. As unpleasant as that is, I think it's really crucial that in a democracy that the people be faced with what the real challenges are.
In George Orwell's book, 1984, the framing of that was that it took place in a United Kingdom that had never not been at war in the memory of living people. That if we're in another 5-year war or another 10-year war, 5 or 10 years from now, you're going to have 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds who have no recollection of a time when their country was not at war. I think Jimmy Carter was the last president not to have a little war during his presidency. These politically profitable things like Reagan's invasion of Grenada. And this does not seem to me to comport with the Eisenhower Republican, or for that matter, Kennedy Democratic perspective of America as the reluctant warrior. We'll step in at the last minute when things get really bad. I mean, look how long it took us to get into World War II. But, we're really not the world's policemen. But here we are.
Well, I totally agree with you. I feel sometimes on the floor. I've been there now. I came in '88 at the time that the Berlin Wall fell. And I'm one of the few people left. I'm 30th in seniority or something like that. There are just a few of us who remember the Cold War, and the draft ended, and all this stuff is gone. And there are very few of us who've actually been in a war and seen what it's done to our country. The ones we have now are all volunteer army or military, and we've isolated the war fighting of our country into about 1 or 2% of our population. The rest of people walk around almost oblivious to the fact that we are spending huge amounts of our capital that ought to be invested in bridges and roads and universities and students and everything else. The last story you had about the debt problem in students, we ought to be thinking about why are we wasting all our money out in the desert when our kids are deeply, deeply in debt in coming out of college. So it's hard to get people to see what we're doing because it's kind of invisible to most of them.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with Charlie Rangel a number of times, that suggesting that perhaps we should think about a national draft, and in exchange for that, like most European countries do, give people free college education or trade school education after they spend a year in the military, or in their choice, a year in a nonprofit organization, volunteer with a hospital or whatever. But give a year to your country, we'll give you back in education. And then our military has a greater diversity of opinion, which I think served us well, actually, during the Vietnam War. Your thoughts on that?
Well, Charlie and I had a long discussion. He sits one seat away from me, the Ways and Means. So we actually were involved in putting in a bill at the beginning of the Iraq War for a draft. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we were shouted down and, warmongers and blah, 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 blah. But our point was that if you don't get people involved and understand what it is that they're sending people out there to do. Charlie'd been in Korea. He got shot.
Right.
He knows what it's all about. It's not like some something he read about in a book somewhere.
Right.
And I think that getting people to understand what they're actually sending people off to do, it is scary to sit on the floor of the Congress and think about the fact that I'm sending people off to die in something that I'm not sure I believe in.
Yeah, and that many of your colleagues have no idea what that actually means.
Yes, that's. I think that it's easy to be for war when you don't really understand what you're doing to people, and
I have to fight it.
So that's why I think a year of service. Charlie and I thought, well, we would try a draft. But I said, why don't we just make it a year of public service? Make everybody between the ages of 18 and 24 serve a year in the public service. Now, it could be in the military, but it could also be in the mental hospitals, or it could be in the schools, or it could be in the forests, or it could be on the shore, cleaning up the rivers and whatever. Giving something back to your country, realizing you owe something to your country,
right,
is something that we now look at the United States as being a place where I have a platform to make money.
Right.
They have no responsibility to give anything back.
Yeah, and as a psychiatrist, I would think that you would be really aware of the need for rites of passage for post-adolescence, for young people.
Absolutely.
And that this could provide one, a healthy one. as opposed to the unhealthy ones that we're seeing where, gang violence and things like this.
No, the things that are going on in some of these places are really kind of scary, and kids need to see what's really out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not pessimistic, but I'm worried sometimes. I guess maybe it's experience that makes these. You can see something that's happening and say to yourself, "My God, do they realize what they're doing here?"
Well, I got to tell you, Congressman Jim McDermott, you are, and some of your colleagues who share a thoughtful perspective, you're one of the main reasons why I'm optimistic about America and the future of this country, because we've got some really great people serving in Congress, and you are absolutely one of them. We're out of time, but McDermott.house.gov is the website. Congressman Jim McDermott, it's always a pleasure talking with you, sir.
I'll talk to you again.
Thank you. I look forward to it. Thank you so much for being on the line with us today. We'll be right back.